I quit dentistry almost 3 years ago, not because it was stressful and not because I wasn't good at it. I left because I uncovered something that turned my entire idea of success and my life on its head. And if you've ever felt stuck in your career, you need to hear this. I was in my mid-20s earning more than what most people my age were probably earning, and I enjoyed it. I went on 3 to 5 holidays a year, I partied in London on the weekends, and I bought a Mini, which is the car I wanted when I was younger. I even had this social status that came with the title doctor. People respected me before I even said a word. It looked like I had my entire life figured out. But what people don't see is what's beneath the surface. Not long after I started working as a dentist, I began to feel off. I tried to ignore that feeling for as long as I possibly could, but it just got worse. Eventually, it got to the point where I would come home from work and sob my eyes out. My parents would call me and ask how my day was, and to be honest, there were times where I wouldn't even want to pick up the phone because I just didn't have the energy to explain why I was so miserable. I hated going to events because people always end up talking about work, and I almost felt resentful that being a dentist was my entire identity. I felt completely disconnected from everyone and everything in my life. But the weird thing is, it wasn't the work itself. Dentistry can be intense and stressful, but it wasn't bad. In fact, on paper, I still think it's an amazing career choice. But it just felt like I was giving little pieces of myself away every single day. And I know that sounds so dramatic, and I know how privileged I am, but I'm just being honest. You see, dentistry looked perfect on the outside, but on the inside, I felt empty. And it took me such a long time to understand why. I realized that I wasn't living a life that felt true to me. I was living the life that I thought I was supposed to live. I mean, I did everything right. I got the best grades, I went to one of the best universities in the country, and I got the most amazing degree. And I know how lucky I am for those things, and I don't regret it for a minute. But I was also deeply unhappy. And that's why all of those things, the traveling, the clothes, the car, going out in London, getting drunk, all of that was really to just distract myself. I don't know if you've ever sat down and written out what a dream day in your life looked like, but I remember doing that exercise and looking at my answer. There just wasn't a single mention of me being in a dental practice for over 8 hours a day, making small talk, but not being able to make more meaningful connections with people. And up until that point, I don't think I had ever actually asked myself, what does success really mean to me? And when I finally did, it really hit me hard because it was so different to the success that I had created for myself. My version of success wasn't about the money, the car, or the titles. It was about freedom, creativity, and meaning. I wanted to have the flexibility to work around my future children, and I wanted to build something that had a bigger impact. Of course, you do help people as a dentist, but to be honest, a lot of the time, people don't enjoy going to the dentist. So I only really felt like I was doing something impactful when I was seeing nervous patients and helping them to overcome their fear of the dentist. And I know some people will say there's more to life than work, and I do agree, but I think I'm also one of those people that really just want to do something that feels meaningful to me. So yeah, dentistry did offer me so much, but it didn't really offer me the things that I desired. But it's funny because I genuinely thought that my dream was to become a dentist. No one forced me into it. In fact, my parents were incredibly supportive. But now I see that I never actually allowed myself to dream bigger. I was chasing the kind of success that society celebrates, not the kind of success that makes you feel alive. And there's this moment that will always stick with me. A girl came in to shadow me at work, and I asked her, "Why do you want to be a dentist?" And I will never forget her answer. "Because I don't want to do medicine." Now, at the time, I judged her, but looking back, I realised I wasn't so different. Growing up in this Indian household, success had a very specific definition. Doctor, lawyer, dentist, accountant, and I bought into those narratives completely. I thought I was being ambitious, but really I was just following a default path. I didn't stop once to ask myself, what do I actually want? I see it now for what it is. a path laid out by society and not a path that I carved out for myself. And the truth is, that path is a trap. It keeps you chasing milestones, grades, awards, promotions, and pay rises. You need those milestones to constantly get that dopamine kick and feel good about where you're at and what you're doing. And that's why it took me so long to realise that dentistry wasn't for me, because I loved chasing all of those grades and awards because it just felt like I was doing something right. But milestones don't mean success. They're just distractions that make you feel like you're on the right track. I also realised that the narratives that I had been told growing up weren't true. I mean, let's just say for argument's sake, it was all about the money. I know so many people who aren't lawyers, who aren't doctors, who aren't dentists, who aren't pharmacists, who earn just as much, if not more. Those narratives, they might have been true for my grandparents and my parents. In fact, they probably were, but so much has changed. And I think once I understood that and I saw it for myself, it really made me question, okay, so why am I on this path? Now, don't get me wrong, leaving dentistry was one of the hardest decisions of my life. Not because I loved it, but because I felt trapped by the weight of everything I had worked so hard for. How do you just walk away from years of effort, from a title that people respect, from the stability that everyone tells you to value? How do you walk away from everything you've ever known? And what else would I do? I didn't want to fall behind. But then I realised something that changed everything. Staying was just as hard as leaving. And when I thought about the life that I wanted to build and my version of success, I realised that I was already behind. And if I stayed, I would only fall further behind. I used to call dentistry the Golden Handcuff. It gave me everything, but it made me feel trapped. In the end, I had to accept that the time and effort that I had invested in dentistry didn't mean that I was stuck there forever. It was not worth losing myself to. And when I realised that, I just allowed myself to be free. And I guess the funny thing that people always forget is that dentistry is always there if I wanted to go back. That's the beauty of careers. They're not as final as we make them out to be. I stopped seeing my career as this single answer, and I started treating it as an experiment. And leaving dentistry has been the best experiment of my life. It has given me the space to reconnect with my dreams, explore my passions, and most importantly, start living a life that feels like mine. I started a YouTube channel. I was hired as the founding member of a creative tech startup. I did freelance creative work. And in my best month, I earned more than I did as a dentist. And now, after having a baby and realising that I still want to make a change and an impact in healthcare, I've actually returned to dentistry, but not as a dentist. I've started a business that will increase access to care. So here's what I've learned through it all. How your life feels is so much more important than how it looks. For years, I let my career define me, but the truth is, our careers are just one part of who we are. They're a choice, not an identity. And when you make a choice that aligns with your values, it has this ripple effect on every other area of your life. Because while this video is about a career, to me, it was so much more. When I was a dentist, I wasn't being authentic to myself, and that manifested as low self-esteem, loneliness, social anxiety, burnout, and even depression. And when I made a different choice, it wasn't just my career that changed. My whole life feels so different to me now. Don't get me wrong, leaving dentistry wasn't easy. I had to face so many fears, doubts, and a lot of judgment. People thought I was crazy. In fact, I'm sure people still think I'm crazy. But looking back now, I wouldn't trade it for anything. If you're stuck in a career or any life path that doesn't feel right, ask yourself this: what does success mean to me? Your life doesn't have to follow someone else's blueprint. Honor who you are and live like your life depends on it, because it does.